Hi everyone, welcome to the Rugby League History channel. I hope you're all well. Tonight's video is going to be the NRL Grand Final 2020 preview / tip. Before I get into the video, I'd just like to see that if you are liking the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel, click the notification bell, share the videos, comment, like, do whatever you like. I'm getting close to 300 subscribers. I'm up to 278 at the moment, hoping to get to 300 by the end of the month. Your support is greatly appreciated, especially for independent YouTubers like me that don't have a lot of help out there. If you could share the videos and subscribe, and let's try to get to 300 by the end of the month. Now, getting back onto this NRL 2020 Grand Final. Another Grand Final is upon us once again. And this time it sees Melbourne up against Penrith. Penrith finishes the minor premiers this year, only lost one game all year against Parramatta, and Melbourne comes second on the table. And once again they're in another grand final, much to my dismay. You could see there were a lot of other people's, but I'm going to try to make this video as neutral as possible, or Melbourne friendly as possible, you could see. So going into the team lists, just to start off with. So for Penrith, I'm going to be reading out their team, and then I'm going to be reading out Melbourne's team, and I'm going to put a bit of a twist on it like I do with most stuff. So for Penrith, fullback Dylan Edwards. The wingers, you've got Josh the Mansaurus Mansour, the longest saving player at Penrith currently. He's been there since 2012. Brett Needham, Stephen Crichton in the centre with Brett Needham. Stephen Crichton, no relation to Angus Crichton. And the other winger is Brian Toto. The half pairing is Joel Luai and Nathan Cleary. In the props, you've got James Tarmo, the captain, and James Fisher-Harris, or Fisher-Paykel, whatever you want to say. And hooker, Api Coruscant. The second rowers, Viliami Billy Kikau and Liam Martin. And the lock is Isaiah Yeo, son of Justin Yeo, that played for North Sydney and Belmeen and is a lot more talented than he was. And the bench, you've got Tyrone Mee, the sextaper. You've got Kurt Keatwell, Moses Leota, and Zane Tesavano. And the extended bench is Mitch Kenny, no relation to Brett Kenny, Dean Varvey, Matt Baton, and Spencer Liu. And now for Melbourne, the team that I hate more than any other club on planet Earth. At fullback, Ryan Pappenhausen. On one wing, one of the most hated players in NRL history, Suliasi Vunivalu. The setters, Brenko Lee and Justin Olam. And on the other wing, Josh Adokar. At 5'8", Cameron Munster, or sometimes I like to call him Eamon Munster. The halfback, Jerome Hughes. The props, Jesse Bromwich and Christian Welch. The hooker, the player that I've hated more than anyone else in the history of rugby league, Cameron Smith. The second rowers, Felice Kafusi and Kenny Bromwich. The lock, Nelson Asafa Solomone. And on the interchange bench, Brandon Smith, Tino, Dale Finucane and Nico Hines. And the extended bench for them is Thomas Eisenhuth, Paul Mummy's boy Momirovsky, and Tui Kamakamike. And also in the extended bench as well, you got Riley Hungry Jacks. So that's their team. Now, going into the actual stats of both teams, Penrith, they've only lost one game all year against Parramatta. 18 wins, 1 loss going into this match. And the for and against for them was a healthy plus 299. And for Melbourne, they finished in second, win-loss record, 16 wins, 4 losses, and for and against of plus 258. Now, going into the game itself, a lot's been talked up about how Melbourne blew away Canberra and Penrith's going to suffer a similar fate against Melbourne. But going back through history, there's been a couple of times when Melbourne's either played a very strong preliminary final or a strong finals game, and they haven't gone on in the grand final and done that. So 2006, they had a very convincing win over St George in the preliminary final, 24-10. They lost that grand final. 2008, they beat Cronulla in the preliminary final 28-0. They lost that 40-0. And in 2018, they easily accounted for Cronulla 22 points to 6 down in Melbourne, and they ended up losing that grand final to Eastern Suburbs. They also had a very dominant year in 2016 where they finished runaway minor premiers, and they beat Cronulla quite convincingly in the last round of the year to actually win the minor premiership. Cronulla played them in the grand final and it was a different story. Now one thing that Melbourne do have on their side is that they're very experienced. Some of their players have played in 3 to 4, 5 grand finals. Whereas for Penrith, going through their side, the only people that have appeared in grand finals have been James Talmo, 2015 with North Queensland, Api Coruscant with South in 2014, and Zane Tetavano with Eastern Suburbs in 2018. Now that's a good omen for Penrith because all of them were winners on that occasion. And Ivan Cleary, he's coached New Zealand to a grand final in 2011, but he couldn't get over the line that time. Another thing with Penrith is that there's been a lot of talk about when are they going to finally crack. They've been a bit lucky, all this keeper, but I think that Penrith's had a very, very good season. They've rose to every challenge that has come before them. They haven't cracked, even in the preliminary final when the pressure was on and there was a lot of doubters out there. They still proved all those doubters wrong. They're in the grand final. Now, in this season for Penrith reminds me a lot of 2003. In 2003, they finished as minor premiers, but even all the way up to the grand final, they were still considered outsiders. And it didn't matter. They beat Brisbane, they beat New Zealand, who were the minor premiers the year before, and then even in the grand final against Sydney Roosters, Eastern Suburbs, they were still considered the underdog, and they come out and won. So for you Penrith fans out there watching this video, that's a good omen because for some reason Melbourne are favourites in this game. I don't know how that's possible because I think this game's 50-50. This game could really go either way. It's not as clear cut as some people are making it out to be. Now I think for Penrith to actually win this game, to win the grand final, to win the premiership, they must start well. There's no ifs or buts about that. Like, they must start well, and their kicks must be good because we've seen Parramatta and Canberra against Melbourne. Both of the kicking games weren't that great, and especially for Canberra, we all saw what happened when they got off to a bad start against Melbourne. Melbourne's the type of side that can put 3 to 4 tries on you just like that if you don't start well. Now for Penrith to start well, they've got to make no mistakes. They've got to match Melbourne set to set. They've got to show up in defence. And one thing I've noticed about Melbourne over the years, they're so used to winning, they're so used to being in front. And if you can actually get in front in a match, especially in a finals match, they look a bit disjointed. They don't know what to do. We saw that in a small way against Parramatta. Parramatta took a 12-0 lead and Melbourne made a few uncharacteristic errors, dropped the ball. They threw a couple of forward passes and they kind of looked like they were imploding, but they ended up coming back in that match due to Parramatta's poor game management and them suffering a couple of injuries. And we've seen that in a couple of other games in years gone by. Cronulla got out to a great start in the 2016 NRL Grand Final. It took, I think, Melbourne the best part of 50 to 60 minutes to get back into that game. And then in 2018, Eastern Suburbs got off to a great start in that Grand Final, and Melbourne kind of imploded in that game as well. And Cameron Munster ended up getting sent to the sin bin twice. So I think if Penrith can get it in front in this game, that can really throw Melbourne's game plan out the window, especially if they can get out to a 12-0, 14-0 lead. I know that's a bit unlikely. It might seem like a bit of a dream scenario to some people, but it could happen. And you watch if Penrith go out to a good lead, you watch Melbourne make a few errors, and it'll take a performance like they had against Parramatta for them to get back into the game. Now for the actual tip, who I'm going to go for in the grand final, I'm going to tip Penrith to win by 2 points. I think it's going to be a really tight game, but I'm going to go for Penrith to win this match 20 points to 18. I think Penrith's going to get the job done. If they don't get the job done, I consider that this year that they've had to be very similar to the Parramatta side in 2001, and I'm going to declare their season a failure pretty much, because even though they've won the minor premiership, even though they've had a good year, when you have years like this, you have to go on with it. You cannot not win the premiership after having a year like this, because we've seen some other teams in the past have dominant years and they've won the premiership, and if they do not win this grand final, they're going to be in the same picture as the Parramatta side of 2001. Now, not just the fact that Penrith have to win, for the good of rugby league and for everyone that hates Melbourne, and for the New South Wales viewers and some people that go for other Queensland teams, Brisbane, North Queensland, Penrith have to do it for the greater good. They have to win, because I'm not going to be particularly happy if Melbourne win this grand final. I'm probably going to feel physically sick, to be fair. Like, I'm probably going to throw up again like I did in the preliminary final. I've got my bucket there ready, but I hope I don't have to use it. I think even if Melbourne do win this premiership this year, don't be surprised if you see Cameron Smith play on in 2022, because he's a greedy cunt. He could have retired years ago. He's already achieved everything in the game, but he continues to play because he's fucking greedy. And that's a plain simple fact. He's a fucking greedy cunt. So for the greater good, Penrith have to win this match. I swear down, they have to win this game, because we cannot have Melbourne winning the premiership this year. So I know that I'm letting me hatred and me bias getting in the road of this video, but I thought I'd just lay it out there, because I absolutely despise Melbourne. And let's go Penrith. Howie Penrith, let's go Penrith. So anyway, that's me grand final tipping video / preview. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, click that like button. I'm guessing if you're a Melbourne fan, you probably don't like this video. You probably unsubscribed already. But anyways, if you have liked the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you subscribed. And also check out my rugby league history pages on Instagram and Facebook. I'll put a link in the description below for them. But anyways, I'm going to get out of here. So anyway, in close, come on Penrith, let's win this grand final and fuck Melbourne. Alright, I'll catch us all later. Ta-ra.